We found out a new way to market and even a new way to sell that I would suggest almost every single person of influence, almost every single entrepreneur, almost every single business leader should factor in. Now, how many podcasts are there out there? I know that for me, I've been an avid podcast listener for the past 10 plus years, probably longer than that. Since I was a child, I would listen to sports talk radio, and then the evolution of podcasts was an amazing thing for me. And for me, it was a way for me to learn, for me to listen, for me to digest what I wanted to. And when I was a kid, it was mostly listening to sports. And as I evolved in my professional life, the evolution of why podcasts meant so much to me is because it gave me an opportunity to learn from business people, from sales opportunities, from political things that I wanted to learn, and everything else that was interesting to me. Now, the newest evolution in podcasting, where I think that almost nobody is talking about, is the ability for you to do your own podcast. And I'll tell you, the reason why I didn't do a podcast for so many years is because, number one, I was very scared to put my voice out there. I was not somebody who was opinionated in public. I have a lot of opinions. I'm very vocal internally. I'm very vocal around my close group of friends and inside of the businesses in which I work, but I was never somebody who felt comfortable putting their opinions in their face in front of the camera. Now, I had to get over that when I became a business owner because I had to promote, I had to market and do those types of things. So one of the first reasons why we podcasted was to be able to get more content of me talking about the things that I specialize in. In addition to me getting more content out there, the other thing it attempted to do was for me to have interesting conversations with people about things that I wanted to learn, or people I wanted to know, or people I wanted to discuss. And it's for us, in the a little over a year that we've been running the Ground Up podcast, the amount of things I have learned and the amount of opportunities I have gained just by doing a podcast, just in that sense, is worth doing the podcast. Now, look, do my podcasts that I do get thousands or millions of views? Of course not. And to be honest with you, that's not even the objective in the game that I'm trying to run. Now, if we happen to get a viral clip that we create, or we happen to get a show that takes off and gets a lot of viewers, either because of the guest or because of the topic or just because of dumb luck, that's fantastic, but that's not what I do it. But I wanted to record a video today to kind of explain to you what we are doing here at Spinwheel and kind of the transition in where we're taking this process. Because I think it's important to hear from somebody maybe like me who's not camera friendly, who's not super into social. I would tell you the first obstacle I had in putting out content like this is I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to use social media. So one of the things that we did about a year ago is we hired a few people internally to be able to take care of video editing. So we record all of our podcasts on Riverside. Riverside is a great tool and a great technology to where even if you don't have the interest to want to bring on a team to edit, Riverside has the ability for somebody novice like me to be able to have AI created clips for you to be able to have all the content modified. In a day of technology, there are plenty of other sources out there that I know that a lot of people I know use a tool called Opus Clip, which you can take the full raw video, you can put it in an Opus Clip, and it'll create as many videos and as many clips for you as you want. Now, what I found is that the utilization of AI is not close to as good as actually having a team that will look through that content, watch the content, and edit it effectively. So we made the decision, even though we have those tools and resources, to bring in a team who focuses on editing. So we have a growth from within editing team like we do with a lot of our team. We have multiple people that we brought in that started off as part-time editors, that grew into full-time editors, and that have evolved more into our marketing department over time. We've got a vast pipeline of people who want to work with us and will continue to grow our team as we continue to grow our platform and what we do. Now, why we record a podcast is not to get virality. Why we record a podcast mentions into the things that I said to you earlier. There are three primary things we look for when trying to identify a guest that we want to have on our podcast. Number one, we want to have people on that have an audience that we want to get our message in front of. We would like to talk to people who have influence in a certain topic, and having our message, our clips, our content in front of them will help our message grow. Number two, we're looking for people who know something about a topic that we don't know. We just finished season 2 of Ground Up, and our whole season 2 was about learning. Our whole season 2, if you watch our episodes, we're having people on about AI, about sales, about leadership, entrepreneurship, all of those things that Matt and I were interested in learning more about. And Matt and I are in the process of developing an AI wing of our company. And so we had on a ton of experts, and having those people who could teach us that, adding those people into our network, both their influence and their knowledge, were invaluable. And even if all you want to do a podcast is to increase your network and to get people of influence and people of knowledge into your network that you can have a conversation with, it's well worth it. Our third attribute, though, is the ability to then sell and do business after the podcast. There's been a couple of people we've had on our podcast that we ended up working with them as their client. We've had quite a few people that work with us and they become our client, to where there is a thing in our business that we can solve for them, from staffing, from consulting, from sales growth, whatever that might be. We have something that we can do. Now, I want to lay out to you the overall process front to back. And for some of you guys, hopefully you will hear this message and you will decide, I can go do this myself. But for others of you, which would have been me 6 months ago, 12 months ago, then I would say, let us know how we can help you. So I'll walk you through the full process of what we do to kind of incorporate and take advantage of the podcast in whole. So the first thing you got to focus on is, how do I get guests? And I believe there will be 2 phases. So for us, our first phase is we went straight to our network. We went straight to the people who knew us, who we know, and we asked for favors. And we had them share their story. So our season 1 was mostly people from my network, people from Matt's network, and that's the people that we had on. And that season was amazing. It gave us an opportunity to put our network in the spotlight, gave us an opportunity to get to know more professionally about the people that we already knew, and got to know more about them personally. Now, eventually that well will run dry, and then you have to ask yourself, how will I continue to get new guests? Am I equipped to go do that? So for us, here's what we do to get more guests today once our well has run dry. Every once in a while, we have people reach out to us and ask us if they can be featured on our podcast. That's a very, very small number of people who will do that. Most of the time, we have to do general outreach. So for us, I have a team of people who extracts thousands of contacts a day, utilizing a data resource that we have access to. We place those contacts in to an automated email campaign. When the customer that we would like to have on the podcast opens the email, whether they reply or not, we then prompts an automation through our CRM to send a LinkedIn request through LinkedIn Sales Navigator. We made the decision to not prompt that connection request with any message, just a cold connection on the back of them just opening up an email that was sent by me. Now, if they reply, then we'll manage the two-way conversation through our CRM and the email side. And our general outreach just basically says, hey, we are running a season featuring X, Y, and Z. We love to feature you on an upcoming episode of our podcast. So from there, once they accept the podcast, we'll send them to a pre-podcast interview, and I'll explain that more. Now, if that email and then the connection request goes unresponded to. 2 days later, the email automation and LinkedIn automation now will send them a message in LinkedIn. A few days later, if that still is unresponded, then email 2 will go out. And then a few days later, LinkedIn message 2 will go out. A few days later, email 3. We have a full cadence that we follow. And if they go through the full 5 email, 3 LinkedIn message cadence without response, then we take them out of our podcast automation and we place them into a potential sales automation from there at a future later date. Either way, we are building a substantial customer database based off of our ICP. And if we were to do this for you, it would be based off of your ICP. Within weeks, you would have thousands of contacts, and hopefully you would have dozens of guests booked into a pre-podcast interview. From there, we have everybody before the podcast, anybody who accepts it, we have them go through a pre-filtered pre-podcast interview. Now, we discuss this with our guest as they're going to be meeting with one of our podcast producers to tell them more about what we do on our podcast and to tell them more about and get to know more about them. In reality, what we have internally is the people who handle this are the sales-focused people who have been trained on how to do a proper sales discovery. Now, even though this person who's trained to do a sales discovery will never be selling them anything, why we believe having somebody who knows how to do a proper sales discovery is important, because we want to be able to identify the overall need around our 3 core needs. If they have 1, 2, or all 3, we have the pre-podcast interview recorded, and then we have a whole recap of that done and presented to the podcast host. In this situation for Ground Up, it would be sent to myself and to Matt. Matt and I read over that recap, and then we approve whether we want to interview that guest or not. If we decide we do not want to interview that guest, then I will reach out to that guest themselves and say, unfortunately, you don't fit into our current plan for this season, but we have new plans next season. We'll be in contact with you in the coming weeks to see if we can align your story with our upcoming season. I look forward to talking to you. If you need anything else from me, let me know. So we'll reject that. Now with us, in an ideal world, we're getting 10 to 15 pre-podcast interviews a week, and we're really utilizing that to filter through the people that are valuable to have on the podcast. Now, if they're not valuable to have on the podcast, but there is a need, then we'll transition that customer into a potential sales need and still maintain building and establishing the relationship and the professional network value of having a podcast. So for all of you guys that have thought about doing a podcast but don't know how to do any of that, we can take care of any and all of that for you. And then in that scenario, all you've got to do is approve the guest, approve the recap, and then show up to our Riverside, where we would have a Riverside app created for you, where we would have a producer and a marketing team there to help you run that podcast and to record that episode. All that we need from you would be the time allotted that you want to run a podcast. For us, we block off an hour and a half for every podcast. We record on general about 60 minutes. But in general, that would have an hour to 2 hours at most, depending on the volume of podcasts you wanted to do a week. That makes the process incredibly easy for somebody like me, because I have a team of people who are identifying the contacts based off my ICP. I have a team of people who are doing the outreach. I have a ton of automations built into our CRM that once we drop a contact into a pipeline and into a funnel, everything else is done from there until a two-way conversation is created. What I didn't mention in that process is we also have the ability to then supplement the automation through text, email, and LinkedIn with an SDR campaign as well, to where we can have an SDR member or a team reaching out to these contacts who've opened and who've had connection requests and or who replied to do an outreach and a conversation and sell an appointment for the podcast or sell an appointment for the pre-podcast interview. Now, what happens after the episode is recorded? And this is the part where I would have struggled, which is Then how do I promote the podcast? How do I clip the podcast? How do I edit the podcast? Well, for all of you guys like me that don't know how to do it, once again, Riverside has the ability for somebody with a novice level of technology can go through and they can pull clips through using AI. There are a ton of other technology, as I mentioned before, Opus Clip, that can do that for you. And I'm sure there are dozens more in today's landscape that can take a raw video, a podcast, edit it, clip it, and do it all for you. But in case you wanted, we have a team who handles these things for you behind the scenes. So I've got a team of editors who can edit the full podcast, who can edit a bunch of clips for you, who can add in all of the creative in front and the end of all of the podcasts, the clips, and everything else. They do full editing. We have a team who does a bunch of content creation in regards to Canva posters and creating a bunch of original content for you using Canva and other creative aspects. And we have a team of content writers who can create your post and create your copy on your post. And we have a team who manages the full front and back of your social. So whether you need somebody to create 5 posts a day on your personal social, 1 post a day on your podcast social, or working your business page, working your website, we have a full team who can handle all of that. I've got 4 business pages, my personal brand, Matt's personal brand, and a podcast page for the 2 podcasts I run. All of those are handled by my internal team. If you want information on that, I can give you the pages. We do our content. Our primary location we do content is LinkedIn, is where all of our content is posted. That's my biggest network for social media. But we don't stop and start there. Obviously, all of our podcasts are put on anywhere a podcast could be, but especially the video-based podcast is on YouTube. We have set up our own YouTube channel that hosts all of our podcasts and long-form videos like this. But then we also have all of our content going on YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, anywhere content can be, we're having our content going out there. We have a database who manages the social, makes it really easy. When we do a post one place, that post is shared on all the places, so it makes it really easy for us to do. Overall, the thing I wanted to share with you guys is the amount of value we've seen by adding a podcast and then testing it internally makes us so excited for us to grow this process. So I've shared with you a lot about what we do at Ground Up, but I'm going to share with you a case study and what we've done with BDCRX. So the first season I recorded BDCRX with a fantastic co-host. His name was Sean Armour. The idea behind that original podcast was I ran a small boutique outsourced BDC. Sean was a very well-known, respected name in BDC consulting. He had a huge following and a niche in which he was a specialist in. I had a significantly less following, but a niche I was specialized in, and we would have our guest coming from dealerships to talk to them about BDC. And it created a really good dynamic. We had the in-store consultant, the outsourced BDC, and the in-store BDC, and we would go through all these different things. We had an opportunity in the first year to sell a couple of our customers who ended up doing business with us, and we were able to expand our network drastically. I was able to increase the way I'm viewed in the automotive space around the BDC drastically due to that. Season 2, Sean decided to go a different direction with his content, and he's working on a major exciting project for him. So we brought in a buddy of mine and a customer that I've worked with in consulting before. So I brought in Jason Miller, who runs Worldwide BDC. Jason is a fantastic business owner. He runs a significantly more successful outsourced BDC than me. So I shifted my role inside of the podcast. I moved to more of the consultant expert, which is what I do on the day-to-day side. He became the outsourced BDC expert, the guy who trains a lot of stores, trains a lot of individuals in stores, but manages over 200 stores. And our primary focus shifted from building a network, and our primary focus shifted from establishing credibility in the space to saying, can we use this podcast as a lead generation source? So fast forward, we've already recorded only 5 episodes. So far, we've gotten 2 customers who have signed up to use, him and or I, and we have probably another 2 that we will likely do business with in the next couple of weeks. We've got a couple of episodes that are upcoming. One of these people, we even have made an offer internally to come in and work inside of our organization because we found him so valuable. So this, for me, was my case study of saying, if I took this process that we've used for for Ground Up, and we use the BDC, yes, I'm sitting in that podcast helping co-host, but I think that we can take this exact same structure, and I think I can teach you how to monetize a podcast far more than the monetization coming from the views, from the podcast itself, coming from the process around it. If any of this is interesting, you don't have to do all of it. If any of it would be of value, let us know. Hopefully, this is something you think you can add to your business, whether you need us or not. But if you do, if you need us, we're here to help. Hopefully it helps.